Welcome back, everyone. We're going to do things a little different today. Today, we're going to be talking about happiness and how to improve your happiness and the pillars of happiness. And hopefully, you can learn a lot from this about how to maybe make some decisions to take more control and more ownership over your ability to be happy. We're going to start with just a 1-minute clip from one of my favorite music videos that kind of gets us started here a little bit.
They say that time will heal these wounds, but every day gets longer without you. And the days just go by, while the nights fade to black. Like catching fire, all is gone, and it all went up so fast. And if I failed you, well, I swear
Have you ever felt burned out, stressed out at the end of your rope? Have things felt hard and hard to deal with? A lot of people are with you guys. So, I teach high school geometry. We're talking about students mostly in this age group. This is the leading causes of death in the United States. Number one for a long time is unintentional injury, but we start to see suicide creep in at a young age here. And if you look at the actual numbers, as we get into higher age groups, the actual number does not drop significantly. People of all ages, all races, all ethnicities fight depression, stress, anxiety, and unfortunately commit suicide. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. There's approximately 1 death in the United States to suicide every 11 minutes. There's another 25 attempts. That means every 11 minutes, there's about 26 people attempting suicide. That's a lot of hurt people in our country. A lot of them are young people, but a lot of them are also older adults. Lesbian, gay, and bisexual kids are 3 times more likely than straight kids to attempt suicide. Each time an LGBTQ person is a victim of physical or verbal harassment or abuse, they're more likely to hurt themselves. I say that to tell you that your words matter. You don't have to like someone, agree with someone. You don't have to agree with them on religious basis or whatever disagreements you have. It doesn't matter. Words matter, and kindness and love prevails. You don't know what someone's going through, and using your words to cause harm could be causing a lot more harm than you even intended. Something that I also want to say, and I'm going to say it a few times as we're talking, 80 to 90% of people that seek treatment for depression are treated successfully using therapy and medication, and especially with younger people. So getting help can lead to healing, but asking for help, letting people know that you're hurting has got to be that first step. It takes a very strong and brave person to ask for help. Don't be afraid to talk to someone you trust, a mom, a dad, a teacher, a counselor, to get the help that you need if you're feeling that way. But we're going to talk about ways that we can improve our life and improve our days continuously. Just full on the record, I did not write everything you see. I did not write a lot of what you see. I got it from different resources, different scientific journals, websites, blogs. Other people wrote some of this. I wrote some of this. But everything that I have here is the result of a lot of research. It is scientifically sound. Everything I'm about to talk about is proven with scientific data. And this is not just how I feel things are or how I hope things are. Like this is all true stuff. So I'm going to just kind of read the slides a little bit because I do like what I wrote and what I have here. But this is some important things. I'm not going to read every detail on every page, but I am going to read a lot. Express gratitude. When you appreciate what you have appreciates in value. Kind of cool, right? So basically, being grateful for the goodness that is already evident in your life will bring you a deeper sense of happiness. And that's without having to go out and buy anything. It makes sense. We're going to have a hard time ever being happy if we aren't thankful for what we already have. Gratitude research shows that people who give thanks feel more positive emotions, relish good experiences, improves your physical health. Your mental and physical health are directly linked, my friends. That is important to note. Mark Cuban actually just recently said something along the lines of, like, if you're miserable when you don't have money, if you just become rich, like you still end up being miserable. Money doesn't help that. It doesn't change stuff. Sometimes we confuse joy with happiness. You buy, you want new shoes, you want new clothes, you want new car, whatever it is, and you get those things, and maybe you feel good about it for a while, maybe even a long time, but that does wear off. That is not intrinsic happiness. That's just temporary joy, and that fades. Buying things, if your joy comes from things, then you have to keep getting new things. And how long you get joy from that keeps diminishing, and it doesn't last as long. We are, at least where I live here in Coppell, we are very privileged and very blessed. We have a lot of things other people don't. You're always going to have less than somebody, and you're going to have more than somebody. Learning how to be happy with what you have and content with what you have and to make the most of what you have is the first step to really being a happy person. Some actual things you can do I have on the page here, but writing thank you notes and thanking people mentally. You don't even have to give them the note, but a letter to a teacher, a parent, a brother, a sister, someone who's helped you, just letting you know how much you appreciate what they've done for you, and just being grateful for what you have. Whether you have food, blankets, beds, house, there's a lot of things that you have on a daily basis, perhaps, that maybe not everyone has, and just understanding how blessed you actually are. Cultivate optimism. A lot of people who are pessimist or depressed, they don't even understand this is a thing. They think other people are just lucky or just, their lives are always perfect. And that is definitely not the case. I am eternally optimistic. I really am. I am always looking on the bright side. I'm always focusing I'm always hoping the best thing happens. And I picture the best thing happening all the time. That doesn't mean my life has always been great. Every single person including yourself, is going to have setbacks. You're going to have things that are tough. It could be deaths in the family. It could be suicides in the family. That is extremely hard on the family members. There's going to be something that you go through, and you're probably going to go through a lot of things that doesn't, that happens to everybody, not just pessimists. So cultivating optimism. Winners have the ability to manufacture their own optimism. No matter what the situation, the successful diva is the chick who will always find a way to put an optimistic spin on it. The only L's she takes are learning opportunities. She knows setbacks are temporary and can stay motivated even under stress. Setbacks are temporary. Failure as feedback are probably the most important things on this page. If doing something poorly or being told you're doing something wrong crushes you, and you are sad about it for long periods of time, that is not healthy. You need to take the opportunity. Yes, you can be sad for a moment, maybe even, depending on the situation, sad for a day or two or even a week. It depends on what it is. But at some point, you have to realize that happened, and what can I do to improve and get better? Optimism is not denial. It is interpretation. It is the ability to choose growth over defeat. I think one of the biggest things between optimists and pessimists is hoping for the best versus expecting the worst. There's a lot of physical things that happen with pessimists. Like, they have a harder time sleeping. If you're always brooding over the past and you're focusing on things that have happened and you're expecting the worst and you're always just thinking about all these catastrophic things, it's hard to go to sleep. But hoping for the best, picturing yourself doing things right. Do you think my boy Luka for the Mavs ever pictures himself missing a shot? He would never let that seep into his mindset. He knows he's going to miss shots. He's not in denial, but he's always hoping for the best. He thinks it's going in every time, I promise. The best athletes in the world always do that. Same thing in school. Like, if you're about to take a test, there's nothing you can do about what you don't know, but you can picture yourself doing the things that you're best at for that content or for that test. And picture yourself doing the things you do know correctly and going through it and understanding it and remembering it or whatever it is. But if you're always expecting the worst is more likely to happen. If you're always hoping for the best is more likely to happen. There's no guarantees, but these make a big difference. Avoid overthinking and social comparison. Comparing yourself to someone else can be poisonous. If we're somehow better than the person that we're comparing ourselves to, it gives us an unhealthy sense of superiority. Our ego inflates. Kaboom! Our inner Kanye West comes out. If we're worse than the person we're comparing ourselves to, we usually discredit the hard work that we've done and we dismiss all the progress we've made. What I found is that the majority of the time, this type of social comparison doesn't stem from a healthy place. If you want to compare yourself to something, compare yourself to your former self. Comparison is not going to be healthy hardly ever, my friends. You don't know other people's stories. You don't know why they're doing way better than you. You don't know why they're doing way worse than you. And it doesn't matter. All you need to do is use that failure as feedback to figure out how to improve on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. In my geometry class, that here it's pretty tough. But it forces you to develop good study habits, time management skills, knowing what you know, what you don't know, knowing how to work on things, predict things. But if you let the first test crush you, you're never going to get there. If you take L's as losses and you quit, that's tough. But if you take L's as learning opportunities and get better, that's what we're talking about, is getting better and worrying about yourself improving. And that could be academically, that could be physically, that you can, all aspects of your life. Research shows that happy people are less affected by social comparison. They simply don't focus on what others are doing, just not what they're worried about. Happy people don't think that way. They are happy for other people that are better. They're willing to serve and help people that need their help, but they aren't worried about who's progressing faster. They're worried about them getting better as often as they can. There's a lot of things here you can do to help beat overthinking. I'm not going to read all those, but we're going to move on. Hijacked attention. We must understand dopamine. It's not necessarily a happiness chemical. It's a motivation and anticipation chemical. Your brain runs on dopamine. Social media is engineered around variable rewards. It's the same psychology mechanisms or similar to them as the ones used in gambling. Gambling is definitely on the rise. Young people are gambling more and more. You know who always wins in gambling? The house always wins. It's designed to keep you hooked. Like take lotteries, for instance, like scratch-offs. They have a lot of $2, $10, $20 winners in there, even $100 winners. But if you're addicted to scratch-offs and gambling and you win $20, what are you very likely to do with that $20? Give it right back, and they know that. It's the same cycle. Like it's those dopamine spikes they keep, you're chasing it. Sports gambling, you read about someone, they won some parlay where they bet $5 and won $5 million or whatever it is. They pay that out. That's a very rare occurrence, and it just produces a lot of good advertising for the gambling site. They're going to make a lot more than $5 off that payoff because almost every person that gambles ends up losing. You're not going to come out ahead. The house comes out ahead. Same thing with some social media. That's how they're designed. Maybe the next scroll will be better. That keeps you hooked. It's not that social media is evil. The problem is overstimulation. You train your brain for distraction instead of absorption. And remember, the comparison lives there too. People post their best versions of themselves on social media. You don't get a lot of behind the scenes. You don't get to see who they really are. You see who they want you to see. You're trying to compare yourself to something that's not real, and that's really tough. So now you lose autonomy, you lose focus, you lose flow, and you increase comparison. That's not weakness, that's neuroscience. The solution isn't delete everything. The solution is control your inputs so they don't control you. It's hard to feel in control of your life if you're not in control of your attention. I think that's pretty powerful there. In my class, I had them then do a reflection. I would love if you want to do that. If you're one of my students especially, you can email it to me if you'd like, if you want me to read it, but it's for you. Be honest with yourself. What currently has the most control over your attention? Is it social media, people's opinions, comparisons, goals, something positive? What would change if you took 10% more control of your attention this week? So, feel free to pause the video and take a few minutes to write a few sentences to see what you think there. Writing stuff down is really powerful for sure. It makes you think, it makes you reflect. It also you're more likely to follow through if you actually write it down. So go do that. But we're going to move on in the video. Choose your life, autonomy. There's a huge difference between I have to and I choose to. Research shows humans have 3 core psychological needs: to feel capable, to feel connected, and to feel like we are choosing our path. When everything in your life feels forced by parents, school, expectations, comparisons, your happiness drops. But when you act from internal values instead of external pressure, motivation becomes stronger and more sustainable. You can't always control your circumstances. We're not saying that. But you can control your interpretation, and that leads to ownership. I have to go to school can become I'm choosing to build options for my future. If you can find, and I strongly believe this, if you can find ways to interpret positive meanings out of everything you're involved in, you will be happier and feel better all the time. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to want to be there to be able to find an interpretation that works for you to help you get through it. When we say building options for your future, what would happen? Let's just say you hate school and you just don't go. How many doors did you just close? You don't know what you want to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But if you don't have a high school education or a college education in some cases, you're closing a lot of doors that now it's way harder to get into those fields or whatever it is you're trying to do. If you quit on math classes because whatever, like you're closing doors. So keeping your options open means sometimes doing things you don't want to do in the moment. You don't know how they're going to affect you down the line. Nobody's going to use everything they learn in school. It's not going to happen. But you're going to use some of it somewhere, someday, and closing those doors. So autonomy is not rebellion. It's not telling your parents no. It's changing your perspective. That leads to ownership. If you don't choose your attention, something else will. Get absorbed. Have you ever done something where you lost track of time? You weren't just thinking about yourself, you were just in it. That's called flow, or it could be called flow. Let's talk about this. Flow happens when the challenge meets your skill level. It's not too easy, it's not overwhelming, it's right at the edge. Research shows people are often happiest not when relaxing. You might think you want to relax all the time. My friends, just picture that world for a second where you are on your couch or in your bed every day, day after day after day. Your self-esteem and self-worth diminish. You feel like nobody needs you, and it leads into stress, anxiety, and depression. That's where it heads if it's at the extreme. We are happiest when we are deeply engaged in something meaningful and challenging. This could be a lot of things. Sports, music, coding, there's a lot of things there, and there's a lot more out there. Video games can induce flow. Certain long-form videos can create absorption. Competitive gaming, volleyball, basketball, soccer, whatever, can match skill and challenge. Video games too. But let me ask you, when you're done scrolling TikTok for 45 minutes, do you feel sharper or foggier? When you're scrolling TikTok, when you're scrolling YouTube videos, it's not activating your brain, it's not challenging it. We can monitor brains in real time. We know that when that happens, guys, your brain activity looks like North Korea at nighttime. There's nothing going on. It's dark. You try doing a level 4 geometry question, boom, your brain is on fire. It's like going to the gym and working out muscles. It's activating, it's working hard. But doom scrolling, you don't need to see 4 videos of AI dogs dancing around. Thanks, Ion, for that joke. If you game competitively and you're improving, tracking progress, adapting strategy, that's real flow, that's growth. That could be video games, that could be actual like basketball, football. But if you are having to think, how do I, trying to outplay, outlast your opponents, outthink your opponents, you're actively involved the whole time, yeah, you're in flow. Flow builds you, distraction drains you. If you're just escaping boredom and zoning out, that's not flow. If you're doing repetitive processes that don't challenge you, that's sedation. Flow happens when you give your brain something worthy of its attention. And we want to be in flow more often. Going home and just scrolling for 45 minutes, 90 minutes, 3 hours doesn't make you feel good. It does a lot of things to your brain that are not good. It makes it even harder to sit in a classroom. You get those dopamine spikes all the time. There's no teacher in the world that can compete with a TikTok scroll when it comes to dopamine spikes. So now you have trouble focus and staying awake in your classes and other aspects of your life, and it becomes all encompassing. We don't want to drain you, we want to build you. But you have to make good choices on what you do with your time, your attention, and how you challenge yourself. Practice acts of kindness. Acts of kindness are associated with increased activity in the brain regions linked to dopamine, that word, and other feel-good chemicals. These chemicals, the chemical releases can have tremendous health benefits, including making us feel more blissful. Selflessly helping someone is a super powerful way to feel good inside. What's even cooler about this kindness kick is that not only will you feel better, but so will the people watching. What are some of the most popular YouTube videos? It's people helping others, donating others, giving money to people, helping people build houses, mow lawns. We love watching that. It feels good for us. It feels good for the people doing it. It feels good for the people receiving it. A side note is that it's the job of most antidepressants to release more of these same chemicals. Move over, Pfizer. Kindness is kicking rear and taking names. Pfizer is a company that makes drugs and antidepressants and things like that. This paragraph is one of my favorite ones in the whole thing. Being kind to someone who doesn't deserve it, is, in my opinion, one of the hardest, most powerful things you can do. Happy people are generally kind, and kindness has a way of interrupting negative cycles. When someone is being rude, mean, or bullying, it's often because they're carrying something you can't see. That doesn't mean you should accept bad behavior or let someone walk all over you. But it does mean you get to choose what kind of person you are in that moment. Sometimes your kindness won't change them, sometimes it will. But it almost always changes you, and sometimes that's how cycles start to break. This is tough. I'm going to take this a step further than the page. There are some people that genuinely don't know what kindness is. If someone is mean to you and lashes out at you, it is human nature to feel justified treating them the same way, calling them names and treating them how they just treated you. Now you've become what you didn't like. We have people in every school, in every community that don't have safe places in their life. They go home and it's not a safe place. It's a stressful environment. It could even be an abusive environment. Physical abuse, emotional abuse. And generally speaking, those students, when they go to school, there's two ways that they act. They typically become very reserved, very hopeless, and don't care about anything. They lose hope, and they don't do well in anything, and they're very quiet. Or they become very aggressive. Well, if someone is aggressive towards you, your most common reaction is to meet aggressiveness head on with aggressiveness. I don't know of any instances where hate has defeated hate. It doesn't help the situation. But if someone treats you that way, there's a great chance you treated them that way back. And that's just human nature. I'm not saying you're a bad person if you did that. But my challenge is to, even if they're being toxic, mean, unfair, you can be the better person. You can be the good. You cannot wait for someone else. You don't know if that person has maybe never experienced kindness. If they're always mean to people at school and there's always toxicity and abuse at the house, they are just met with unkindness all in their life. It is possible they have made it to 9th grade or wherever they are without anyone genuinely showing them kindness. You don't owe anyone access to you. You don't owe it to them, but you do get to choose what you put into the world. And I'm saying be the good. That starts with you. Don't wait for other people to do good things. You do good things. You help others whenever possible. You meet bullying and meanness, you treat it with kindness and love. And that's how we make our world a better place. One person, one act at a time. Nurture social relationships. The happiest people on the planet are the ones who have deep, meaningful relationships. Strong research shows chronic loneliness significantly increases mortality risk. That's death risk, death rates. Some analysis believe it to be comparable to smoking and obesity. Smoking, obesity, loneliness are comparable mortality rates. Whoa! There's a warm, fuzzy feeling that comes from having an active circle of good friends who you can share your experiences with. We feel connected and a part of something meaningful. As someone who has experienced a lot of loneliness, I moved to Texas in 7th grade, and I didn't have a real friend for at least a couple of years. I don't know, 2 or 3 years. I played basketball by myself, baseball by myself, all in the backyard. I played hockey by myself, but I didn't have any people that were my friends. And it's really hard when you don't have people you can trust and you can talk to. So I have been through that. People who feel permanently lonely are more likely than others to suffer from depression, anxiety, sleep disorders. It's harmful to your mind and your body. I finally started playing hockey. I met some people at school, and I started going to their church group, and things got a lot better for me in that regard for sure. But it's real, and making friends is hard. So I'm going to walk you through that a little bit, but I'm not an expert on this, guys. Making friends is actually something therapy can help you with as well. Therapists are not just for depression and anxiety and things like that. Therapy can be to help you make friends, to help you come up with coping strategies, which we're going to talk about in a second. They can help with all kinds of things. There's a lot of very emotionally stable people that go to therapists just to stay strong and to be able to keep things in a positive light. But here's some things you can do to make friends. Find small commonalities. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. I could talk to you forever about League of Legends, sports, hockey, Texas Tech, but I can find small things. Almost any student at my school, I bet I could find something that I could enjoy talking about that thing with that person. And that could lead to other things, like you don't have to agree with everything to have small talks about one thing. The second one is one of the most important ones on the list. Don't charm, just be. Don't feel the pressure to become the main character or always having to impress and entertain. No need to perform. Be authentic. Be you. A lot of people who don't have friends go and try to make friends in the wrong ways. They try to impress people. They exaggerate. They even flat out lie about how good they are, what things they have. I have this, I did this, I have this much money, I have this many shoes, whatever, right? That's not enjoyable for the other people. They don't want you to sit there and just brag about your life and how great it is. That's not enjoyable. What you're doing is you're really pushing them away. There's a chance they will try to not talk to you again if that's the kind of conversation you have. Also, if they do happen to connect with you and it's something you exaggerated or lied about, now you're fake. Now it's a fake friend and a fake connection. And fake is also really hard to maintain. It's a lot easier to be yourself. So be yourself, be authentic, the connections will come. Vulnerabilities are another way that we can connect. It's one of the strongest ways. We've both been through something tough. Opening up to someone and finding out other people that have been through the same thing can be bonds that are unbreakable. Being an active listener. A lot of times asking questions is the best way to have a conversation. If you're always waiting your turn to talk and not listening and acknowledging what others are saying, then you're not good at conversations. People don't want to just listen to you. They want you to acknowledge them. That's what a conversation is. We listen to each other. We acknowledge each other. We don't just wait our turns to talk. And then find hangouts. It could be a club, just a gym, a team, something. If you're in school, there's lots of places in school you can go and find clubs. Worst case, you go to some club meeting and you don't talk to anyone, you make no connections, and you lost 2 hours. Maybe you were a little embarrassed because you were by yourself for a while. That's the worst case. But if you have so much anxiety and you picture it going terribly and you just never step foot in a room and you're always by yourself and you go home and you're by yourself every day, you're not going to be able to make friends that way. I'm not talking about a group chat. I'm talking about going places where people are. That is so important. Like I said, I switched to church groups. I played a lot more hockey and joined a couple hockey teams. That's where I made my friends. And, some of those friends are to this day. It's a long time. Thank you guys. I love you guys. Learn to forgive. Harboring feelings of hatred is horrible for your well-being. You see, your mind doesn't know the difference between past and present emotion. When you hate someone and you're continuously thinking about it, those negative emotions are toxic for your well-being. You put yourself in a state of suckerism, and it stays with you throughout your day, week, month, or even your year. Yes, that is tough. When you forgive someone, they were cruel to you. It's a traumatic experience. It was unfair. Though it's legitimate to be mad at people. That is okay. I'm not saying you're not allowed to be mad at them, but you can't stay mad forever. You can't obsess about it forever. I've talked to you about some of my family members who had issues at young ages, and it stuck with them their whole lives. It's easier to heal at a younger age. Forgive, and this is something else therapy can help with, is teaching you, like if you've had a hard time forgiving someone, you might need professional help doing that. And there are therapists that are trained for just that. They're going to help you learn how to release those feelings and forgive. Forgive does not mean what they did is okay. Forgiving doesn't even mean you have to tell them you forgive them. But if you hate someone and you obsess over something that happened in the past and you won't forgive, that person or that event still has control over you. It's controlling you, and it's causing you to be miserable in some cases. So forgiving allows you to heal. Forgiving does not mean what happened is okay. And you have to understand that. Being mad about something for the rest of your life will not change the fact that it happened, and all it will do is make the rest of your life less enjoyable. So we have to learn to forgive. I talked about this already a little bit, but coping strategies are different for every single person. For example, I watch Survivor all the time. There was an autistic person on Survivor, and one of her coping strategies is she needed someone to hold her tight. And I have friends in my life who I do that same thing with. I literally did that today with one of my friends. It was a total crash, and they were not handling things, and they were not coping on their own, and it wasn't going to be fixed on their own. And I just held them tight, and we did deep, slow breaths, and that was their coping mechanism, and they turned things around quickly. But every person's different. What works for one person doesn't have to work for every person. I can't help you through this on a person-by-person basis necessarily, but there's a lot of good things here. But if you really struggle, if setbacks crush you, if failure crushes you, and you are not able to cope quickly or in a reasonable amount of time, then a therapist can really help you with that. Commit to your goals. When your goals are aligned with your intrinsic motivation versus your extrinsic thoughts, like money, like are you ever going to get enough money if that's your goal? Like typically no. Intrinsic motivation predicts happiness way better. If your goal is extrinsic, you may have a harder time appreciating what you have accomplished, always looking for more. But what do goals do? Like in my geometry class, you create successful habits, how to study, how to manage your time, how to bounce back when it doesn't go well. Almost every student in my class has had times when it did not go well, and that is hard. If you write it down or if you tell someone, being accountable keeps you focused. This is my favorite one. Focus on smaller victories. If your goal is a 10-year goal and you have no victories for 10 years, that doesn't feel good. You need to have verifiable things you can check off a list, even on a daily basis sometimes. Those are your dopamine spikes. Those feel good. That gives you motivation. Focus on something you can do. Like, if you're trying to win the World Series, you hear the players say all the time, we can't win 4 games at once. You can win 1 game at a time and check it off your list and keep improving and keep inching closer and closer towards your goal. Knowing that all you can control is you, your effort, and how much you put in. You cannot control output. You can only control what you input. And if the output doesn't match what you want, okay, we can live with that knowing we did everything we could on the input side. But once you start feeling lots of small victories, you develop an insatiable hunger for success, and now you're unstoppable. Even when it doesn't go well, you pick yourself right back up and you know you can do it, and you do the next thing the next day better. And you improve and you get better, and you can't be stopped at that point. This creates an unstoppable, goal-oriented person, and it feels great. Savor life's joys. People who savor the positive sides in every situation to every situation are happier. Finding small moments of meaning, even during difficult tasks and situations, can make you and everyone around you happier. We go real fast all the time. When's the last time you hung out with people and did something for fun? If you can't remember, that's not a good thing. If you don't find moments of joy every day, life is not fun. You need to have joyful moments on a daily basis. What are some things you can do? Share good news with others. Do you share bad news? Do you talk bad about people? That doesn't feel good. People who do that, you go home, it doesn't make you feel better later. But sharing good news and positivity builds people up and makes other people want what you have. They don't want to be around someone who's always toxic. That's not behaviors most people are attracted to. Take mental snapshots. I do this all the time. I didn't even realize how good of a thing it was, but like when I'm going to bed at night, I'm picturing great moments throughout the day. What happened? What good things happened? It's like a mental snapshot after snapshot that I took. That could be poning some noobs in League of Legends. That could be someone I helped at school. That could be just a joke I made. Whatever. I'm focusing on things that went well. I rarely ever even recall the things that didn't go well. And then there's some other things in there, but like savoring life's joys, living your best life means slowing down enough to see how good it already is. Focusing on your strengths instead of fixing your weaknesses. People who focus on their strengths typically end up being happier and more successful. We have this issue in Coppell. We have really high achieving students, and I love it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But I would say that some of my students would be so much better off if they were just in one on-level class. What happens is we spend so much time on the things we don't like and we're not as good at. It could be my geometry class. And I've told this student since the first day, if you're making below an 83 in an honors or AP class at our school, you would probably get a higher GPA in the on-level class. So transcript-wise, it's better to be in on-level. Also, it frees up your time. You're going to not have nearly as much work, and you're going to get better grades. And now you can have more time to focus on what you are much better at. The world pays or rewards people who are really good at what they do. Yeah, you might become competent in something if you work really hard on your weaknesses, but that's not what's going to make you happy. All of the science shows us that your strengths are where your success is going to come from. That's where it's going to happen. If math isn't your strength, yeah, it's important to still work in math classes, but you don't have to do honors math. And we see it down the road. 9th graders have a hard time taking that on-level class. Even 10th graders, we start to see maybe 11th graders do it more often when they start to realize the benefits of being in an on-level class a little bit more. I'm not saying you have to do that. If you're able to maintain it with a strong, your mental is still very strong and you're pushing through and your goals are to do well in all those classes and it's working out and you still have time to have joy and you still have time to focus on your strengths, okay. But if that one class, and I bet you can think of it right now, that takes all your time and energy and makes you dread going to school was on level, how much better would school feel? Think about that. Take care of your body. Team, you get one of these, one body, and you can do irreparable damage to it. We talked about drugs and alcohol earlier in the year and those effects. Taking care of your body is crucial to being the happiest person you can be. If you don't have your physical energy in good shape, then your mental energy, your emotional energy, and your spiritual energy will all be negatively affected. In some studies on mild to moderate depression, structured exercise has performed as well as antidepressant medication. Not only that, but it increases self-accomplishment and self-worth, so you're much less likely to relapse or be depressed again later. Movement improves your mood, energy, self-esteem, and stress regulation. I should have put it in here, but also your diet. If you are not moving and you are just eating a lot of junk food and high sugar food, and you're not going to feel good. And this is coming from someone who ate 4 brownies on Tuesday. I get it. I know I don't eat well, but having a healthy eating lifestyle. I don't want to use the word diet. Most people don't need a diet, but you do need a healthy eating lifestyle. Am I saying never eat brownies? Absolutely not. But I am saying that you should be eating more healthy foods than unhealthy foods. It will make you feel better, and and exercise goes right in that. Exercising and moving helps you sleep better, improves your memory. It helps with positive mood and energy. It just has so many things that improve when you start exercising and taking care of your body. You're welcome to pause the video and do this. Out of everything we've talked about today, which habit would make the biggest difference in your life right now? What is one small action you could take this week to strengthen it? This week I will practice blank by blank. You don't have to do all this, but just thinking about what's something that could make a difference right now for you. And especially if you're one of my students, if you need help, ask for help. Ask me for help. You can submit. There's a Schoology place. You can submit this to get help. I promise you, I will do everything I can to help you. I care about you guys more than you understand. I want the best for you. All right. My closing arguments. Here we go. You've made it a long time. If you've actually watched this whole video, I appreciate you. Here we go. We started today with a hard reality. Mental health is not a small issue. It's not dramatic. It's not rare. But here's the important part. Happiness is not random. It's not personality. It's not luck. It's not something some people get and others don't. It's built. It's built by what you pay attention to. It's built by what you practice. It's built by who you surround yourself with. It's built by what you commit to. It's built by how you respond when life punches you. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can control your attention, effort, and ownership. That's autonomy. And when you combine that with deep focus, real connection, purposeful goals, and taking care of your body, you don't just feel better, you become harder to break. That's the goal. Not perfect, not always happy, but to be resilient, capable, and grounded. You don't need to change everything. Just pick one thing and start. That's it. That's the message. If you need help, reach out. Talk to someone. Talk to me. I love each and every one of you.